In July 2025, a 65-year-old grandmother from North London was unmasked as the unlikely mastermind behind a multi-million-pound drug empire. Deborah Mason, dubbed Gangster Granny by police, appeared to be an ordinary pensioner. Yet behind closed doors, she orchestrated a sprawling family-run cocaine trafficking network that flooded British cities with drugs worth an estimated £80 million. This so-called Queen Bee of crime recruited her own children, her sister and family friends into the illicit business, turning family bonds into a cocaine supply line that moved nearly a ton of Class A drugs in just 7 months. Welcome to UK True Crime Files. Deborah Mason hardly fit the profile of a drug lord. A grandmother from Tufnell Park in North London, she lived what appeared to be an ordinary life, even claiming over £50,000 a year in government benefits. But behind this facade, she embraced the moniker Queen Bee and masterminded an extensive narcotics operation that would shock the nation. According to prosecutors at Woolwich Crown Court, Mason recruited her own relatives, including her older sister and 4 of her children, along with their partners and friends, creating a tight-knit gang of at least 10 members bound by blood and greed. This was no ordinary family, observed by a Crown Prosecution Service official. Instead of caring for her kin, Mason corrupted them, luring them into a highly profitable life of crime. Once drawn into the enterprise, each family member had a specific role to play. Mason directed and managed the operation from the top, acting as the hub of the wheel. She maintained contact with an upstream cocaine supplier known only by the alias Bugsy, ensuring a steady flow of product for her couriers to distribute across England and Wales. Despite her age and innocuous appearance, Mason commanded absolute authority within the group. So much so that when she jetted off on holiday to Dubai in mid-2023, her adult daughter Roseanne Mason stepped up as interim leader to keep the business running smoothly. Under her mother's guidance, Roseanne had already been deeply involved, completing over 7 drug runs and even collecting cash on her mother's behalf. The court heard that Roseanne provided childcare for other gang members on the side, enabling her relatives to continue working on drug runs while she watched their children, a grim inversion of family support. Mason's influence extended across generations. 4 of her own children became core members of the gang. The court was told that Mason didn't need to threaten or coerce her offspring into the illicit trade. They joined willingly, motivated by financial gain. As the prosecutor noted, in this criminal family affair, loyalty and greed became fatally intertwined. Judge Philip Katz KC admonished Mason for betraying her role as a mother, telling her, "You recruited members of your own family. As a mother, you should have been setting an example for your children, not corrupting them." The spectacle of a grandmother leading her daughters, sons, and even family friends into a life of crime earned Mason the tabloid title, Gangster Granny. Far from being offended, Mason reportedly embraced a similar nickname, calling herself Gangster Debs, as she reveled in her unlikely underworld status. From spring to autumn 2023, Mason's clan operated a massive cocaine supply chain that reached far beyond their North London base. Over approximately 7 months, April to November 2023, the family-run ring trafficked nearly 1 metric ton of cocaine with an estimated street value of about £80 million. This wasn't a neighbourhood operation. Mason's couriers crisscrossed England and Wales, delivering drug packages to major cities including London, Birmingham, Leicester, Bradford, Bristol and Cardiff. Virtually overnight, the grandmother from Tufnell Park had turned her family into key distributors in the UK's cocaine trade. The modus operandi was both brazen and carefully organised. Acting on instructions from her international supplier, Mason would dispatch her relatives in hired cars to pick up shipments of cocaine smuggled into the country. Often, these pickups occurred at ports. Harwich Port in Essex was a frequent rendezvous point. Investigators later discovered that on one fateful morning in April 2023, Mason herself departed her North London home at 4:30 a.m. in a rental car, drove to Harwich, and spent just 20 minutes at the port, presumably loading boxes of cocaine into the vehicle before heading back into the city. This early morning pickup was the opening move in what became a frenetic relay of drug runs over the ensuing months. Once a load of cocaine was secured, Mason's family couriers would fan out to distribute the product, driving hundreds of miles across the country, ferrying kilos of cocaine to contacts or stash locations in various cities. To avoid drawing suspicion, some smugglers tried to blend in as ordinary travelers, even if that meant turning drug runs into family road trips. In a startling detail revealed at trial, young mothers in the gang brought their children along to drug pickups and deliveries, hoping to appear like innocuous parents on a day out. For instance, Mason's 30-year-old daughter, Demi Bright, undertook a 2-day courier trip in August 2023 with a staggering 60 kilos of cocaine in tow, and she brought her 2 young children with her, staying overnight at a hotel with the illicit cargo nearby. Another daughter, Lily Bright, 26, participated in around 20 drug trips, moving roughly 195 kilos of cocaine, and she would often travel with her infant son in the car while transporting the drugs. Even Mason's son, Reggie Bright, 24, and his partner Demi Kendall, 31, turned their drug runs into family outings. Reggie typically drove on a dozen runs, moving about 90 kilos total, accompanied by Demi, who often took her toddler with her in the car. It's jarring to imagine, but strollers and baby bottles sat side by side with bricks of cocaine, a cynical ploy to use family as cover for crime. Each member of the crew was well compensated for these risks. Evidence showed each courier earned at least £1,000 per trip. In some cases, £1,000 a day for a single delivery run. For a young parent or relative enticed by quick money, this was a powerful lure. Over time, the Mason family became a well-oiled machine, using encrypted messaging apps like Signal to coordinate pickups and drop-offs in real time, and even implementing counter-surveillance measures. Messages recovered later showed the gang set chats to auto-delete and habitually wiped communications to cover their tracks. The family clearly understood the scale and stakes of what they were doing. In one text, Reggie Bright admonished his partner Demi Kendall not to complain about the constant travel, telling her not to get the hump because we need the money. In another conversation recounted in court, Demi Kendall warned a friend she had recruited about the consequences. Driving with the amounts they carried could mean serious jail time if caught. These remarks make it evident that Mason's crew operated with a mix of ambition and anxiety, fully aware they were playing a high-risk, high-reward game. While the cocaine highway built by Mason's family stretched across the country, the illicit profits flowed right back to their pockets, and Mason ensured she enjoyed every pound of it. The lavish lifestyle this grandmother-turned-gang boss cultivated wouldn't have looked out of place in a gangster film. Investigators say Mason and her relatives were selfishly attracted by the financial benefits and quickly began funding lavish lifestyles with their drug-dealing income. Perhaps most infamously, Deborah Mason exhibited her newfound wealth by pampering her beloved Bengal cat, Ghost. In a detail that captured headlines, Mason spent around £400 on a Gucci designer collar and lead for her pet cat, complete with a 9-carat gold name tag engraved with the feline's name. This extravagant purchase, a Gucci cat collar costing more than some families' weekly pay, became a symbol of how brazenly Mason flaunted her drug money. And the cat wasn't the only one being spoiled. Mason herself splurged on high-end designer goods and home luxuries. Police found she had invested in expensive outdoor furniture and garden decor to adorn her residence, turning her home into a veritable palace built on drug profits. The family gang didn't shy away from big-ticket leisure either. They booked luxury holidays abroad using their earnings. Mason, in particular, was globe-trotting. During the conspiracy period, she vacationed in Dubai, and plans were uncovered for her to travel to Turkey for cosmetic surgery procedures, presumably another way to spend and launder her ill-gotten riches. Photographs presented in court showed Mason decked out in designer outfits, looking far removed from a penny-pinching pensioner. The irony was stark. Even as she claimed government benefits as if she was struggling to get by, she was simultaneously burning through drug cash to fund a life of luxury. Mason's decadence was not lost on the authorities. Detectives later commented that the gang was sucked into criminality by the trappings of wealth. They were buying Gucci, gold, and glamour on a scale their legitimate incomes could never support. For Mason, the financial windfall of dealing cocaine was simply too addictive. It even blinded her to the danger she was in. Rather than lie low, she drew attention with her exuberant spending sprees. In one exchange discovered on her phone, Mason bragged about a designer Bugatti brand kettle, an almost comical luxury for making tea. From pricey appliances to pedigree pet accessories, every extravagance was a red flag that screamed unexplained wealth. Ultimately, the gang's luxury purchases became part of the evidence against them. When police arrested members of the Mason family, they seized not only drugs, but also stacks of cash and a trove of expensive goods. One couple in the gang, Reggie Bright and Demi Kendall, were caught with over £15,000 in cash at their home, along with quantities of cocaine, indicating the scale of profits being kept off the books. It was clear that Mason had successfully turned crime into a family business, one that paid so well she could literally collar her cat in Gucci. But that success would soon come crashing down under the weight of a meticulous police investigation. In the spring of 2023, even as Deborah Mason's network was hitting its stride, law enforcement was closing in from the shadows. The Metropolitan Police's Specialist Crime Unit caught wind of the unusually large drug shipments moving through Harwich Port and other entry points. Acting on intelligence, detectives launched a covert operation to surveil Mason and her associates. Early on, Mason's pre-dawn trip to Harwich on 20th of April 2023 set off alarm bells. Whether through physical surveillance or tracking data, police learned of her brief rendezvous at the port and suspected it was a narcotics pickup. They quietly began tailing the gang's movements across the country. Using a combination of traditional investigative work and high-tech tools, described by the Met as precision technology, officers gathered data on phone communications, vehicle hire records, and travel patterns. Phone call data revealed an intricate web of contacts and placed Mason or her couriers at key locations at critical times. With each covert observation, the police tightened the net around the family operation. One challenge for investigators was that Mason's crew tried to outfox surveillance with encrypted communication. The gang coordinated primarily via Signal, an end-to-end encrypted messaging app, hoping to keep their discussions hidden from prying eyes. They even enabled features like disappearing messages to erase evidence of their dealings. But this false sense of security would be their undoing. When officers eventually moved in and seized the gang's phones, digital forensic experts managed to recover thousands of messages exchanged between Mason and her accomplices. These texts were damning. Not only did they outline logistics, pickup schedules, addresses, and amounts, but they also showed the conspirators deliberately deleting messages. A clear sign they knew their activities were criminal. The very tool they thought would keep them safe ended up providing smoking gun evidence in court that the family knew exactly what they were doing and were trying to cover their tracks. By late 2023, the authorities had compiled a comprehensive picture of the Mason gang's operations. They tracked the regular circuits from port to city, identifying key players and vehicles. Surveillance teams covertly watched as Mason's relatives moved suspicious packages into car boots and drove off to far-flung locations. Each trip logged, each phone ping noted, was another nail in the coffin for the Queen Bee. Detective Constable Jack Crouch, who led the investigation, later described the enterprise as sophisticated and extremely profitable, acknowledging the clever tactics the gang used to evade detection. But crucially, Crouch's team stayed one step ahead. For months, they let the family carry on, gathering more evidence with each illicit delivery, until they were ready to strike. The takedown came in May 2024, when police simultaneously swooped in on the major players of the gang. In coordinated raids, officers arrested Mason's daughters, sons, and associates, catching most of them by surprise. Their homes and hideouts were searched, yielding caches of cocaine and cash that tied them irrefutably to the drug ring. One member, 44-year-old Anita Slaughter, initially evaded the spring roundup but was identified later through the message logs. She was tracked down and arrested in November 2024. By that point, the family network had been dismantled. The police had not only halted a pipeline that was funneling hundreds of kilos of cocaine into communities, but had also collected a mountain of evidence to ensure these perpetrators would face justice. As the case moved to court, more details of the investigation emerged. Surveillance had caught some gang members red-handed. Mason's confidence in her low profile was misplaced. Her defense attorney argued that she does not look like someone who is involved in drug dealing, and thus was chosen by higher-ups to be the fall person. Indeed, Mason's inconspicuous grandma next-door image may have helped her operate under the radar for a time. But in the end, no disguise could outlast determined investigators. After painstaking work, the Met Police had assembled a compelling case that this grandmother had led a drug conspiracy of remarkable scale. In early 2025, Deborah Mason and her family crew faced their reckoning in the courtroom. The trial at Woolwich Crown Court would last 11 weeks, laying bare the inner workings of the Gangster Granny empire. Prosecutors presented piles of evidence: surveillance footage, phone records, encrypted chats, and even the gang's own ledgers of luxury, receipts for designer goods and exotic trips. Charlotte Hull, the Crown prosecutor, walked the jury through the evolution of this family crime syndicate, emphasizing how money was the prime motivator. Everyone involved had an expectation of significant financial advantage, at least £1,000 per trip, she explained, underscoring that they all knew the huge scale of the operation. Hull detailed how Mason had enlisted her sister, children, their partners and friends into a network of 10 people. Crucially, she noted, none of them were forced. Mason's recruits were drawn in by greed and willingly broke the law for profit. It was a damning portrait, a matriarch turned mob boss who exploited family ties to build a drug empire. One by one, the extent of each member's involvement was exposed to the jury. Deborah Mason herself took part in 20 drug runs, personally transporting about 356 kilos of cocaine. She also coordinated numerous other runs and handled large cash collections, acting as the operational boss on the ground. Her daughter Roseanne Mason, 29, had been almost a deputy, stepping up as acting head when Deborah was away. Another daughter, Demi Bright, 30, had made at least one major run, 60 kilos, with her kids in tow. Lily Bright, 26, also Mason's daughter, was a key courier with 20 trips, incredibly often accompanied by her little boy. Mason's son, Reggie Bright, 24, completed 12 trips with 90-plus kilos and also served as a money courier on occasion. Reggie's girlfriend, Demi Kendall, 31, was equally complicit, sometimes bringing her toddler along for the ride. Mason's 66-year-old sister, Tina Golding, wasn't spared by age either. She ferried at least 75 kilos of cocaine on 4 trips, earning about £10,000 in wages for her trouble. And then there was Anita Slaughter, 44, a close family friend and godmother to one of the children, who participated in one large delivery in October 2023, moving about 55 kilos spread over 4 drop-offs. Lastly, Chloe Hodgkin, 23, Lily's partner, was heavily pregnant and due to give birth, so the court scheduled her sentencing for a later date. This roll call of relatives turned criminals painted a stark picture of a family deeply enmeshed in wrongdoing. Faced with overwhelming evidence, several of Mason's co-conspirators pleaded guilty before or during the trial, hoping for leniency. Mason herself, however, maintained that she was not the ultimate boss. Her defense lawyer, George Payne, argued that Deborah was more of a middle manager, saying she was chosen by others to be part of the plot precisely because she doesn't look like a drug dealer. He suggested that the true kingpins, such as the mysterious Bugsy, remained in the shadows, and that Mason and her family were expendable pawns without deep experience or knowledge of the wider cartel. The judge did acknowledge that Mason was effectively the site foreman working under the direction of a site manager, implying that someone above her gave the orders, but that did not absolve her responsibility. After deliberation, the jury found Deborah Mason guilty of conspiracy to supply Class A drugs, confirming that she was a willing and crucial leader in the conspiracy. It was a landmark conviction. Rarely had someone of her grandmotherly age been at the helm of a drug ring of this magnitude. Sentencing day came on 18th of July 2025, and Judge Philip Katz KC delivered a stark rebuke to Mason and her clan. Deborah Mason was sentenced to 20 years in prison, a severe punishment reflecting her role as the ringleader. One by one, the rest of the family network received their fate. Roseanne Mason, 29, 11 years Demi Bright, 30, 11 years Lily Bright, 26, 13 years Demi Kendall, 31, 13 years and 6 months. Reggie Bright, 24, 15 years Tina Golding, 66, 10 years Anita Slaughter, 44, 13 years Chloe Hodgkin would eventually be sentenced after her child's birth, completing the list of convictions. In total, the family gang saw 8 members jailed for a combined 106.5 years behind bars, a remarkable tally that speaks to the scale of their crimes. As the judge passed sentence, he highlighted the tragedy and gravity of the case. A woman who should have been a pillar of her family had instead led them all into ruin. Several of the women have young children, Judge Katz noted, but that only makes it easier for unscrupulous dealers to recruit mothers. His words underscored a broader point. By involving mothers and even unwitting children in the operation, Mason had demonstrated how criminal networks exploit familial bonds and vulnerabilities for profit. Detectives and prosecutors expressed satisfaction and relief at the outcome. DC Jack Crouch lauded the relentless police work that had brought down the Queen Bee's hive of crime. Following months of work by the Met Police to relentlessly pursue these perpetrators, we were able to arrest and eventually convict them, Crouch said, preventing more drugs from flooding streets across the UK. The Crown Prosecution Service heralded the case as a prime example of teamwork between investigators and prosecutors. They had jointly pored over the mountain of digital evidence, the thousands of signal messages, the financial trails, to build an airtight case. One CPS specialist remarked, "The evidence revealed incriminating messages and a significant pattern of deleting messages, helping to prove that they all knew exactly what they were doing." In other words, the family's own words sealed their fate. With Deborah "Gangster Granny" Mason now in prison, the story of her family-run drug empire serves as a cautionary tale on multiple levels. It's a striking reminder that crime can emerge from the most unexpected quarters. Who would suspect a grandmother in her mid-60s, doting on her pet cat and grandkids, to be at the center of a nationwide cocaine ring? Mason leveraged stereotypes to her advantage, appearing harmless while methodically committing serious crimes, until those very assumptions lulled her into a false sense of security. Her downfall illustrates that no one is truly above the law or below suspicion. This case also exposes the perversity of greed and how it can warp family relationships. Mason's story turned the traditional notion of family on its head. Rather than shielding her children from harm, she ushered them into an illegal enterprise that will now separate them for years in different prisons. The family members, in turn, put their own children at risk, literally bringing infants and toddlers into the orbit of the drug trade. The lure of easy money proved stronger than the instinct to protect their loved ones. As Detective Crouch observed, the operation was hugely profitable, but it inevitably leads to violence, antisocial behavior, and misery for communities. And one might add, misery for the family itself. The Mason gang's sentencing prevented nearly a ton of cocaine from reaching street corners, along with the crime and addiction that would have accompanied it. But it also perhaps saved the family from an even darker fate that often befalls those in the drug world: violent retribution, overdose, or a life on the run. In the aftermath, authorities have surely set their sights on the upstream suppliers like Bugsy, who used Mason's family as distributors. The case has likely yielded intelligence that could lead to further arrests higher up the chain. Meanwhile, social services have had to step in to care for the innocent children who, until recently, were unwitting passengers on drug runs with their mothers. There is a human cost to this saga that extends beyond the headlines of kilos and millions. For the public, the tale of Gangster Granny Deborah Mason is a stark lesson that the drug trade spares no one. It can seduce retirees and young parents alike with promises of cash only to destroy their futures. It also highlights the importance of vigilant policing and community intelligence. It was a tip-off and some keen detective work that ultimately exposed an operation hidden in plain sight. As the Metropolitan Police continue to combat organized crime, this victory stands out. A family gang dominated by women, led by a 65-year-old grandmother, was brought to justice without a single shot fired. Instead, it was careful surveillance, data analysis, and the rule of law that stung the Queen Bee and dismantled her hive of crime. In the end, Deborah Mason's family network was exposed for what it was: an illicit business that traded family values for cash and luxury. The judge's parting words encapsulated the tragedy. Mason had abundant opportunities to lead a normal, even comfortable life. Yet she chose the path of criminality and dragged her loved ones with her. Now, as she begins a 2-decade incarceration at an age when most are enjoying retirement, Mason's story stands as a grim warning about greed, betrayal, and the long arm of justice. The gangster granny who fancied herself untouchable has learned that even the savviest criminals can end up behind bars. And when crime is a family affair, everyone pays the price. And if you found this breakdown informative, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode of UK True Crime Files.